Hi, Agnes here with the last of the Agnese letters. If you've been following, the Agnese letters are a pregnancy-long set of letters from my persana's grandmother to my persona during a pregnancy in 1562 Calais, France. Agnes was born in Florence and then was married to a wool merchant to secure ties. These are letters are based upon actual letters written by the Medici family and others during that time period. They're a way to convey research in a consumable and personable manner. The project has followed a pregnancy, and throughout it, there has been a shadow that something could go wrong. In the modern world, no pregnancy is guaranteed to come to a happy ending of happy, healthy mother and child. This was more so in the past. So, trigger warning, these letters will deal with a premature birth, and a passing of an infant. If this is a triggering thing for you, I'm very sorry. I'm going to give you a moment to turn away and do something else. All right, next letter. 29 October 1562. My beloved Agnese, my heart rejoices that you have found what you call a sage femme among the good merchants of Calais, even more so that you wrote she had ability to turn a child in the womb who was not prepared to exit. It is unfortunate she is not family and could not become the child's comare. Again, you have asked sorrowful questions that are heavy to my heart. I understand the troubles your mind is having regarding the arrival of your child. Indeed, the unbaptized are condemned to the level of hell. I would have you speak to your sage femme about baptism, and if she has performed one on a small soul, if it has been lost. It is a pain beyond measure to give the child to the earth beside a chapel, and not to consign its body to be with baptized family. I pray your child comes well and loudly into our world, and be baptized such as your cousin's daughter was just baptized at La Basilica de Santa Maria de la Imprudentia. May God bless you and keep you, your grandmother Leonardo. So in France at this time, a sage femme was another term for a midwife, but specifically one who had training, and perhaps even trained along with doctors. They sometimes were also merchants' wives or learned women. Meanwhile, in Little Italy, they were called camare, and in many cases were family also. And it would also become the child's godmother. So maybe your aunt was well known about childbirthing and procedures, so she might come assist you and then be the child's godparent. This is important to have the godparent present or quickly named because the mother might pass giving birth. Another one of the footnotes here, according to St. Augustine, as well as other church documents, an unbaptized child was condemned to hell and not allowed to be buried in a Christian burial site. Midwives periodically would emergency baptize infants. On a side and personal note, when my son was born too early in 2005, I was asked by the nurse if I wanted to have him emergency baptized, as he was going to live a short time. I did not because in my personal belief system it was unneeded, but the echoes of this past hastening to baptize the infant to ensure its immortality still can be heard today. Archaeological sites around the base of cathedrals have uncovered multiple infant and fetal burials spanning the 14th century to 17th century. These are called eavesdrop burials, and indeed some burials found after then. It's believed that the rain falling from the eaves in the house of the worship would over time sanctify the ground and the lost souls of infants it fell upon. And so when she's talking about pain beyond measure to give the child to the earth beside a chapel, she's mentioning these eavesdrop burials, which as time goes on, we find are more and more common. Again, if you could not baptize the infant quickly enough, if someone who could do a baptism was not there, if it was stillborn, it was a common practice to bury the infants along the sides of the chapel, so at least the water would fall down from the church and be a type of baptism, hopefully, and protect them. The final footnote I want to talk about here is one archaeological site studied for its mortuary practices of families and children was based at a site in Florence. That's the basilica she talks about where her cousin would have had the baptism and that many Florentine baptisms were done. One interesting thing in reading about the dead throughout these letters was looking at different embalming methods, preparation for travel for the remains as well, which is something that initially was surprising, including full autopsy. More of that can be found in the papers. is the final letter. 29 November 1562. Most beloved Agnese, it is with sad and bitter heart, oppressed by grief, that I write you this letter. That tragedy has not taken your life as well as a blessing. It is well that your sage femme had heeded the words of St. Thomas Aquinas and baptized the head of the child as it was first seen. Such a baptism in a time of need will be honored. More a blessing that the child was tested with water and not born still and silent. A brief life and a weak cry after baptism are sometimes all the comfort we as mothers are afforded. It is well you wrap the child in linen and balsam. Were you here in Florence, she would rest with your mother in our family chapel. May you find comfort as you mourn your daughter and the blessing of another child to follow. Yours in sorrow, Leonarda. All right, so let's take apart some of the footnotes here. The phrasing was actually used in a text of the death of mother in childbirth of a sad and bitter heart oppressed by grief. In that particular study, it was a mother who had passed in childbirth. A cesarean was performed in order to deliver the baby, and the baby then passed as well. And the father's feelings of having that sad and bitter heart were notated, and then I took them and used them in my letters because they best encapsulated how a family member would be feeling after this. Next footnote, it was commonly held that St. Thomas Aquinas allowed for emergency baptism of an infant as it was being born. So just as the head was crowning, people would come in, they would bless the child, name the child as it was born, so kind of just to protect it or safeguard it to a more formal baptism could occur. Oftentimes these were not recorded. It was sort of like a just in case. Infants were tested for life by being bathed and splashed with water upon birth. This came to pass because baptizing and Christian burial of stillborn infants was not allowed by the church. So they would baptize the head, it was born, and they would test it for life. And if there was any life there, they would just give another baptism again just to make sure. Because keep in mind, the mothers are consigning their child to eternal hell, torment. They will never see this baby again. And all they can do for it is to baptize it quickly and go forth and say, okay, you're blessed, you're all right, I've done all I can for you. I also made mention of this balsam to wrap bodies because to mask the smell at a funeral. In Florence at this time, it was used, and many families had chapels that had understanding of mortuary science, as I mentioned before, and balsam was used to wrap in with the deceased. So wrapping your infant who was baptized in balsam is something that would be plausible.